Hi, this is Dave, Fell Running Guide. Welcome to this week's navigation task. We've got a lovely day in the lakes for this week's task, and I want you to identify the features circled. So the yellow feature is a mountain summit, and then the red feature is a rocky outcrop on the other side of the valley. The yellow one may be a little bit easier than the red one. And then can you also work out where the photo was taken from? That's a little bit more difficult. Let's have a look at the map that we're going to use. So it's the Ordnance Survey 1 to 25,000 map. Okay, let's go back to the photograph to start with. What are the main features that we can see? Well, we've got an obvious long, wide valley stretching away off into the distance. We've got high ground on either side. We've got what looks like a river, although not much water in it, running away down into the distance. And then we've got a lake down there in the distance. We've also got quite a lot of trees on both sides of the river, extending way out into the distance. And we've also got some distinctive paths and tracks. So one up here, another here, extending off and then parallel to the river as well. In terms of the land features on the right hand side, as we look, the ground rises steeply to this rocky summit, and then it looks like there's a ridge going off to the right as we look at it, and then out of sight, so gradual down to start with, and then high ground or another ridge going on beyond that. And then coming back towards the camera, we've got this high ground here, coming back towards us again, gradually coming down rocky ground to the camera location. A very steep drop off just to our left down into the valley, and then we've got this big mountains feature on the other side, very rocky, and we've got some distinctive features in this side of the mountain, and then dropping down to this rocky feature that we want to identify. So is any of that obvious on the map? Let's have a look. Well, there's only one long valley with a river in it and trees on either side, and that is this here. So were we looking from east to west or west to east? Well, it would make sense that we were looking downstream or downriver, down towards that lake in the far distance. And we can see from the contours that we've got 269 here, 214 here. So the river is flowing right to left or east to west as we looked. So that would indicate that we were on this side above this steep ground looking way over to the west. We couldn't really be on this side either looking to the east, because we'd be looking up the valley and then we'd have this high ground of Brandreth in the valley, and we weren't seeing that. We were just looking down beyond an initial high mountain, then out to lower ground and that lake. So that means if we are over on this side looking to the west, then that high rocky distinctive shaped mountain would be Pillar, and we can see all this rocky ground on its northern facing slope. So that's that. So what about the mountain with the yellow circle around it? What would that be on the north side of the valley? Well, we've got three to choose from: High Stile, High Crag and Haystacks. Now remember, the mountain had that ridge running off to the right, kind of a gradual sloping ridge to the right as we looked. Well, Haystacks doesn't have that, so immediately to the north the ground drops away into this rocky ground. High Crag, however, has this extension, this ridge extending for a good 500 metres out to the north, and then it's got this bit of a ridge dropping down towards the camera. Also, a similar shape is High Style. You can see we've got that ridge running off to the right as we were looking. So which one of these two is it? Well, if we were to drop off High Crag down into the valley bottom and then straight up the other side, we'd go directly to Pillar, whereas High Style would be much further down the valley as we looked. So let's check that on the photo. So straight down from here and up to Pillar is the mountain that we were looking for. So that would make this High Crag, with High Style being further off into the distance and Haystacks being closer to us. So that covers that. What about this red feature here? Well, looking at the photo, we might say, well, we can identify that because it's just where this gap in the trees is. But if we look at the map, we can see that there's no gap in the trees. The tree line is continuous. We've got this boundary along it. It goes pretty much along a contour. There's no chunk out of it. So that's a really good point to note, that when we've got forestry land, especially if it's worked and maintained, then the map isn't going to keep up to date with any felling that goes on. So don't just stake all your claim or put all your faith in the forest on the map. We need to look at the permanent features. So the shape of the ground isn't going to change regardless of whether there's forestry action going on. So let's have a look at the shape of the ground around Pillar, see what we can see there. So I've zoomed in a bit for you. You can see very distinctive rocky ground at the summit dropping off here, and then it looks like we drop down and then it flattens out at this point here. So we've got steep ground and then a flattening and then steepening down again to our rocky feature, and it looks like we've got a bit of a bowl or a corrie or a scoop out of the mountainside here, and a similar one here in rocky ground, this almost like a flattening between the high rocky ground and the lower rocky ground. So is that clear on the map? Let's check. Well, I've zoomed in on the map for you here. There's our summit, and we've got steep rocky ground dropping down, but then we've got this scoop out here, and then we've got more rocky ground dropping down here, and then we've got that flattening before it drops away steeply again into more rocky ground, and then we've got this other scoop out here, this cove. So forms a W shape as we're looking, so one sort of scoop out of the mountain with this rocky ridge and then another, and the ground that we wanted, the feature that we wanted, was an extension of this down, down, down to our rocky ground here just above the tree line. So that feature we're looking for is this there. Okay, finally, what about the photo location? This is a little bit more difficult, but what we can see is we've got ground constantly rising up to the first summit, and very, very steep ground on our left dropping away down here. So let's see if we can work that out. Well, we can't be over on Brandreth because this ground ahead of us is dropping down. So we've got to be over here somewhere with ground starting to rise up towards Haystacks, but steep ground on our left hand side immediately. So that puts us in this area here. So let me put some arrows and circles on the map for you. So photo taken from that point there, looking pretty much westwards down towards Ennerdale Water. There's the crag below Pillar, and that's High Crag on the right. So well done if you got it right. I think there are a few correct answers on social media, apart from identifying this featured or the photo location. That was pretty difficult. One thing to note, Blacksail Hut, we couldn't see it. It was just obscured by the shape of the ground immediately to our left, but it is in there. We could see this track and this junction here and this path going up towards the start of the forest. So well done if you got it right. Thanks for watching. As always, look out for next week's navigation task. Bye for now.